Hey everybody, and welcome to the Sanctuary Dev Chat. Today we have Philip.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yes, I'm not bad, thanks. Recovering a little bit from a cough, so I might cough once or twice during this. Apologies in advance if I do.
All right. We'll try to edit out what we can, of course. But so yeah, tell us a little bit about your role with Sanctuary. How did you find the Sanctuary team, and what made you decide to join?
Well, they actually found me. So I play Supreme Commander, a game I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, and I actually decided to write a mod for the game, a new soundtrack. Um, I do really enjoy the Supreme Commander soundtrack, but after so many hours played, I guess you know, I just thought it'd be a
You
cool
just want
idea
to
to
hear
have
something new
something.
after a while.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a nice idea to just put something fresh out there for people. Um, so yeah, I think that did fairly well. People enjoyed it, so they um, they contacted me and wanted to see if I was interested, and I was
Yeah,
very much so. Yeah, so that's how that came about anyway,
yeah,
which is pretty cool because I didn't expect anything like that to come out of it, so it was just a bit of fun, really.
that's really cool. So you are of course, our composer. So with
Yes,
that, what are some of your inspirations with that?
probably my biggest gaming composer wise inspiration is Marty O'Donnell for the Halo soundtrack, which I'm sure a lot of people are
I
familiar
got
with.
to actually meet him once at a at my university. We had him as a guest speaker.
Oh wow,
Yeah, he was really cool.
yeah, that must have been amazing.
It was a lot of fun. I was really glad that we got to do that.
I'm kind of jealous right now. Um, yeah, I would say my biggest inspiration overall is probably Hans Zimmer. I know he's very mainstream these days in terms of music in the films industry, but yeah, I've been a big fan of his stuff for a long time. The way he writes his music, he sort of brought the ostinato into mainstream, really cool like action riffs with
Hmm.
strings and things like that. Stuff that gets you energized. Big drum cues. John Williams, pretty standard.
Yeah,
You
all
can't,
the
you
all the
can't,
greats.
yeah, you can't talk about composing without talking about John Williams. Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
He's probably the one I would say has the most just identity with all of his soundtracks, all of his scores. They just all have so much character, and they're also memorable in their own way.
It's not like when you hear a song of his, it's like, oh, that's a John Williams song. It's like, oh, that's the song from that work. Like it's for
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
And one of the more recent ones who I've definitely taken a lot of inspiration from, and I hope I don't butcher the pronunciation, but Ramin Djawadi. He does stuff like Game of Thrones,
Okay.
Westworld. They're two of his bigger ones. Westworld and Game of Thrones. Very good shows, but the soundtracks are just
Yeah.
so on point. I love them so much. That's the use of cello in the Game of Thrones soundtrack. I think you'll see the inspiration in mine, hopefully, because I do get a bit of that cello in there. And with Westworld as well, it's got that nice mix of like Western piano mixed with like modern synth.
It
It's
gets
just
that the the classical instruments, like it tells like this epic like story and all that, and then like you have like modern instruments like synth and stuff like that, where it's like that takes it into the future, and it combines in that kind of way almost.
yeah, they actually complement each other really well. Um, and it's the same sort of thing with Hans Zimmer when he did Interstellar.
Oh yeah.
I never would have thought about using a church organ for a space-related film. It just never would have occurred to me.
And it's so iconic too. It
Yeah, it
works
just
so
works
well.
so well. It does, yeah. And I couldn't mention Hans Zimmer without bringing up Pirates of the Caribbean. It's
Hmm.
probably my favorite score by Hans Zimmer. It's just so good.
It's so fun too. It's just it works
Yeah, it is.
well, and it's like the main theme will get stuck in your head and all that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, I could talk about Hans Zimmer all night, like all of his
Yeah.
different scores, but yeah, I think Pirates is probably my favorite, followed closely by Interstellar, because Interstellar is quite a different one.
Yeah.
I just love the use of the church organ. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So
So yeah.
yeah, that's some of my inspirations anyway.
So moving on with that, what is the biggest challenge for writing the soundtrack for an RTS game? Because you a lot of your inspirations were, these composers from film and stuff. How does that transfer to an RTS game where it's like what you could be doing from moment to moment could be very different and all that stuff?
Yeah, it is difficult because when I sit down and I'm writing, these tracks for the game, it is hard to sort of separate the fact that you're not writing to these, emotional scenes in a film where you're literally writing the music to,
Like a storyboard
yeah,
where you know
interactions that
exactly
are
what's going to
happening.
happen.
Yeah. And like you say, the music needs to be dynamic so that it can change from like peace to battle
Hmm.
without it sounding jarring. So it is a big challenge not sort of having the music be too much of a distraction and taking up too much brain space.
Yeah.
Because an RTS game especially, it's about you're constantly thinking, trying to strategize, outsmart your opponent.
Can't have the
So
music
yeah,
just be throwing you off all the time.
no, you don't want the music just there in your face the whole
It's like,
time.
why is
So
battle music playing? I don't see anybody, stuff like that.
yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing I've found difficult is drawing the line between I want the music to be interesting and somewhat emotive, but I don't want it to draw too much attention away from the player. So
It needs to complement it without getting in your face.
yeah, and there has definitely been times where, sorry, there's definitely been times where I need to sort of dial it back, and I've recognized that, and I'm sure it will happen again because it's easy when you're sitting there writing this track and then you get this big epic part. You're like, oh, this sounds great, but then you realize it does it actually really work in an
Hmm.
RTS game? So yeah, that can be challenging.
Yeah, it sounds pretty frustrating because it's like you don't know what the player is going to be doing at any given moment, and it's like you can't know.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. So to a certain point, you have to just keep it dialed back and restrained, which, like you say, frustrating is a good word, but it's a fun challenge,
Hmm.
and it's something I fully expected. So.
Yeah. So with that, could you tell us more about your process?
Yes, so I use a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, along with a MIDI keyboard. And then I use sampled instruments. So it's basically like a piece of software that I put up on my computer, and I got my keyboard plugged in, and I can access whatever kind of instruments that I want, basically, because they're sampled. I can take a violin, so they've got the process is it's quite tricky. They will take the violin and they will record someone playing it
Hmm.
thousands and thousands of times. Making sure to get every note,
Every way that you can play every
yeah,
note too,
every articulation,
and also maybe just a few different ones just for variation.
oh yeah, and there'll
Yeah.
be all the different dynamic ranges. There's so much that goes into it, and that's just one instrument.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I heard with guitar, it's like not only that, you have to have like, oh, different kinds of guitars, different settings on the guitar. I could see it being a whole thing for every instrument too.
yeah, it can get very complex, and it's a big undertaking to create these samples. But what it allows me to do is I've got this incredible sounding instrument at the press of a key, on the keyboard. So whereas the player, plays their A notes on the actual instrument, if I press A on my keyboard, I get the notes
Hmm.
sounding very realistic.
The
It's the
whole
technology.
orchestra at your fingertips,
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
exactly. The technology these days is incredible when it comes to like digital audio. It's really exciting being able to just have all that power at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Because obviously I would love to be able to work with a real orchestra. That would be obviously incredible as well, but it's not exactly practical.
Hmm. There's very few games that I can think of that actually have had like live real bands do like, and those are like Nintendo, where they have like the budget for that.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. All of these things come along with a fairly hefty budget. But yeah, so I've got a lot of different instruments at my fingertips. So it's just a case of sitting down and
Playing it
composing.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
I guess kind of adjacent to that, what's your creative process look like?
so my creative process can differ. I mean, it pretty much always involves firstly gathering a collection of like reference material, as with a lot of different things. So that can be the obvious one, like music. We talked about my inspirations, but I'll often look for music, that's similar to the sort of thing I have in mind, so I can, listen to it and take inspiration from, steal a few ideas here and there, like every good artist.
As long as you're stealing from a bunch of different people, then it's not stealing.
Yeah, true. Images, I will use images to help me compose some tracks. So I
What do you
will
mean by
just have
that?
it. So I'll find, because I'll often have like a sort of an idea in my head of what I want to do for this next track. So I just find it's quite often helps to find a cool image that can sort of help me visualize it, just
Something
have there
like
on
to
the
get like the
side.
mood, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
mood storyboard type thing. So yeah, I'll quite often have that on the side there while I'm writing the music, and I'll just glance at it every now and then. Sometimes I'll find myself with an idea and I won't be in a position where I'm able to do anything about it. So I'll just whack out my phone and do a voice recording. I'll just hum. As it doesn't sound
Yeah.
great, but to the best of my ability, as long as I got the idea there.
That's what I heard. I think Toby Fox did with some of the Undertale and Deltarune soundtrack. Is he just kind of put stuff on his phone for later and then came back to it and he's like, all right, let's make this good.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, you got it in your head. As long as you can translate you humming it back to it being in your head again, then you're set. You're good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might sound like the recordings of a madman if some random person stumbled across it, but hopefully someone won't stumble across it.
Yeah, just, the recording folder of just all this like, ad lib music on the fly.
Yeah. As
He's
much as I
speaking in
love,
code.
as much as I love, writing music and stuff on the keyboard, my singing is questionable at best.
Yeah. It's it's
Um,
a whole different instrument essentially.
oh
Singing. Like
yeah,
it's, your voice is
yeah. Your voice is
a
very
throat organ, whatever.
one of the hardest instruments out there.
Yeah.
But I'll often like I said, I'll often have an idea of what I want to do, but sometimes I will sit down and just sort of freestyle it, experiment, see what happens. Quite often when you do that, happy accidents will occur.
Things just
And
accidentally fall in place, yeah.
yeah, some of the best tracks I've done, I think, have just been from me just sitting down and just playing for a bit, and something happens.
Yeah, that's actually interesting with that. I remember when I saw Marty O'Donnell talk about writing the Halo theme,
Hmm.
the Gregorian chant, I think, was going to be a placeholder. And when they showed it again without that, people are like, what happened with that? People really liked it. And so they're like, okay, now it's a
Yeah.
mainstay for the whole series.
Oh yeah, it's iconic.
Yeah, you can't have it without it.
Oh no, just watch all the videos of people in bathrooms, hundreds of guys crammed
Yes,
into a
yes, I
bathroom.
love those so much.
Yeah, and see the Halo soundtrack, it's the kind of thing where it's just instantly recognizable from
Hmm.
so many different aspects. Like there's, I think it was the E3 2018 reveal trailer for Halo Infinite, which is just releasing soon. As soon as everyone was sort of like, oh, what's this? What's this? They were showing some, like little clips. And then as soon as it got to this one scene where this one piano note, E,
Doon, da, doon, doon,
the E comes
doon.
in and everyone immediately knows that's Halo.
Yeah,
Just one piano note had the power to set everyone off with excitement.
absolutely.
So I would say that's a success if you can pull that off.
Yeah. So, how is the soundtrack for Sanctuary coming out?
Yeah, it's coming along pretty well. It does still have a long way to go in terms of like play length, But I've definitely made a lot of substantial progress in terms of like the themes and the main melodies that I want to use for the soundtrack. So that's a lot of the work. Like once I know the sort of theme and the melodies that I want to use, like as reoccurring themes and melodies, then I can sit down and just start, really banging them out. A lot of the heavy work is done there. So, like I say, play length, it's got a long way to go, but it's kind of like going from theoretical to actually having it recorded. But a lot of the theoretical work is sort of there, so that's good. Saying that, I have made decent progress on the recording, so that's good. I've got a few tracks. We've released a few tracks that people can hear on the website, but there is quite a few tracks that are completed, but no one's heard yet. Coming along well.
That's good to hear. Did you want to speak more on the melodies and the main melodies and all that stuff?
Yeah, okay. So in terms of what I said about, I've got sort of the main melodies and themes there. I think, again, going back to the Halo thing, it's like it's important to have, for successful soundtracks, to have a memorable main melody, like one that you can hear and instantly connect to whatever game it's from, or not necessarily just a game, just a whatever. And I think it's also important to have reoccurring themes and melodies. So if you've got a strong melody, you want to sort of sneak it in here and there in tracks, and
Like a little motif.
yeah, you want to have
Yeah.
like little variations on it and subtle hints,
Yeah.
because when that happens, it sort of grounds
Even
it
if
and
you
glues
don't
it all
like,
together.
even if if the person listening doesn't realize it, it's like they have heard it before, and then that helps it stick better, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good way of gluing the soundtrack together and making it, feel wholesome rather than just a bunch of separate tracks.
Yeah, you don't want just like a collection of cool songs. You want to have like the Sanctuary
Yeah,
soundtrack.
and I suppose going back to it's an RTS soundtrack, so it's not necessarily as important, but I think it also helps create story when you have
Absolutely.
reoccurring themes.
Yeah. Like if you're
Um,
having like a large online battle or just, doing something single player, it helps like you make the movie of it in your head as you play
yeah,
the game.
yeah, definitely. I think it's very important. So I am very happy with where that is sitting at the moment. I've got a really nice melody. It sounds quite cool when you hear it, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing around with it a lot, and I find it's really easy to just sort of slide it in to tracks in different ways and have variations of it, and it makes you think of the main melody. So yeah, that's definitely a big milestone for the soundtrack that I think I've passed.
That's really cool, and I'm looking forward to hear that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to people sort of hearing it in different tracks, thinking, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Hopefully.
Um, yeah. Uh, and do you have any other ideas for the soundtrack that you're currently thinking about?
Yeah, so I suppose your general RTS soundtrack is, you have your piece music, when you're building or your build construction music, whatever, when you're building your base, building your units and stuff, and then usually when combat starts happening, it'll switch over to more intense like combat music.
Mm-hmm.
So, you'll know something's going down somewhere, usually accompanied by explosions and gunshots and.
Yeah.
So that's pretty standard, but I do definitely have ideas on how to sort of enhance
Transition.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so just ways to improve on that, like different kind of situational music. So like when you die, when your commander dies in the game, there could be certain tracks that play that kick in then. When a super weapon of some kind is launched, you could have some big dramatic music start kicking in. You could do it with like specific types of combat. So like air combat or naval combat, you could have certain tracks reserved for around when that's sort of happening.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I'd have to sort of talk to see what it's like on the coding side of things for this, but I'm sure it'd be doable.
Yeah, because like it's hard to like fit in every idea all the time, but
Yeah, that's the
if it's a
thing.
cool enough idea, you got to get it in.
Yeah, exactly. It was, and I'm sure the people would testify for that. You know,
Yeah.
if you get enough people interested, then it's hard to say no. Then, but one thing I would, speaking about situational music, one thing that I would really love to do. I'm not sure if you're aware of Final Fantasy VII. When you fight Sephiroth, it's got the one winged angel
Hmm.
music while you're fighting him. It's like the last boss fight of the whole game. The music track for that is just epic on a new proportion.
Yeah.
I would really love to do so like the biggest, baddest weapon in the game when that's like being built and is in the field. I would love to have a big epic track like that, you know.
Yeah, that would be really cool. It's and that's also one area where it's like the music wouldn't be getting in your face; it would be helping you because it'd
Yeah,
be like,
that.
"Oh no,
Oh
drop
yeah,
everything,"
that's
you know?
yeah. That's one moment where I would want the music to be like get
Yeah.
pumped, like there's a big thing happening
It's kind of
in the
like in
game.
if you like Left 4 Dead, whenever there's a tank, you can hear the tank's theme song, and
Yeah,
it's like, oh no, and then you hear the
yeah,
roar, and it's like, okay,
yeah. So yeah, that's something I'd really love to have a go at. But yeah, I think they sound like small things, but in the grand scheme of things, I think they would make quite a noticeable difference,
yeah.
especially
It
at
seems like
that
a
song.
it seems like a pretty hard balancing act because on one hand you don't want to be in the player's face, but you don't want to go unnoticed either because you want to have like something that will really like sell, you know, what's going on in the game.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously the more sort of transitions you have, the more sort of tracks I need to do for each sort of genre then of the game.
Yeah.
So like air, I need to do several air tracks, several naval tracks, several super weapon tracks. So obviously you do have to be careful with scope creep and things like that.
Yeah.
But they're definitely ideas that are definitely worth at least looking into, experimenting with. Even if I just get the big epic track when there's a big event happening, I'll be happy with that.
I think that's one that I'd want to see in the game too, definitely.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I guess with that, do you have any closing thoughts? Any last things that you want to add?
I want to, I suppose, thank everyone for showing interest in the game. Thank you for this interview. It's been quite fun. Hopefully, people got to know me a little bit. I'm looking forward to getting more music out so people can hear it, definitely. Because, I've been working on it a lot behind the scenes, and it is a lot of work, but it is really fun. And yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Uh,
I'm looking forward to all that, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being on with us.
oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's been really nice.
Yeah. So I guess with that, this has been Sanctuary. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.